Hello, audio fans and music listeners. My name is Gavin, and I am your host here at the Audiophile Wannabe Show, where we like to remind people that whereas beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so too is sound in the ear of the listener. If you're familiar with the channel, you may be aware that for quite some time I've been doing a lot of testing, a lot of listening, testing various components, different cables, different things, trying to understand the subtle differences that they can make when it comes to sound improvement to your system. And it occurred to me this afternoon that probably for the past 5 or 6 months, I've been listening mainly through streaming, and I haven't listened to CDs or vinyl, anything like that. So I wanted to go back this afternoon and listen to CDs, and just to see what kind of difference that might make compared to streaming. And before we get into those differences, let's just take a quick look again at the system that was listened to today. And again, if you're familiar with the channel, you know I really like Cambridge Audio products. And as you can see there on the bottom left, you got the AXR 100 stereo receiver, and on the right side, on the bottom right, you got the CXN 100 network streamer on the bottom, and the CXC CD transport on top. The CXC CD transport is linked to the CXN 100 via optical cable, and the CXN 100 is linked via Danny Ritchie's interconnect cables to the Prima Luna Evo 300 tube preamplifier sitting atop on the left. And again, Danny's cables, interconnect cables, are running to the back of the AXR 100 on the bottom left. And another point to note right quick, as referenced in a couple of recent videos that speak to vibration dampening to help minimize vibrations that can impact various sonic frequencies. There are 2 chopping blocks that you can see in this video, one on the left underneath the AXR 100, and then one under the CXN 100 on the right. So again, use the little rubber feet on the bottom of those, and they seem to do a nice job of helping to reduce vibrations that may impact those units. So just wanted to point that out. And of course, the Prima Luna 300 Evo 300 weighs about 1.2 tons, so it doesn't really need any additional help to minimize vibrations, I don't think. It is quite heavy. Very nice unit. So that was a review of the system again. And the next item up for bids basically was to figure out what kind of music to listen to test the CD transport. And for this purpose, I couldn't really think of anybody better suited than Mr. Yoshi Horikawa himself. As you may have seen in a previous video, I did talk a little bit about some of his music. Don't really know how to classify his music, but it's very interesting. He has lots of different sound snips, sound effects, but his music is excellent for testing your soundstage. It will push your soundstage to the limits, and he's got different things happening all throughout the space in the room in your soundstage, and love his music, really enjoy listening to it. So I was very familiar with this album, Spaces, and thought this would be a great album to test on the CD transport. And here is a list of the track list from Yoshi's album, Spaces. And the first song that I wanted to go back to was the song Vietnam. And once I clicked the play button, was quite surprised at the difference in volume. Had forgotten the difference in volume between the CD transport and the streamer. Usually run at about 29. If you're familiar with the AXR 100, when you turn or power the receiver on, it starts at 50, and you have to lower the number to increase the volume. And usually I run it at about 29 or 30, but with the CD transport, 32 to 33 was quite loud, and possibly louder even than what it seemed like it when it was set to 29 just with the streamer. The second thing that stood out was not only was the volume louder, but all of the music throughout was basically meatier and had more punch to it. So similar to what I experienced when initially plugging up one of the GR Research power cables, noticing greater punch in the vocals in particular. With the CD, it was almost like that with all the music throughout the songs. The songs had more weight to them, and you could feel the presence was increased throughout the songs on this CD. And just to point out again, the CXN 100 streamer is a fantastic streamer. Love it to death. It's my go-to streamer. And the CXC transport running into the back via optical cable into the CXN is using the CXN's DAC. So this is a good comparison of just the difference between the CD and the streamer in the CXN 100. It really didn't matter which track I was listening to on the song. It was the same pretty much throughout every song. But when any sound in the tracks had any kind of decay that would cascade across the soundstage, there was a continuity that went throughout the entire space in the room. And what I noticed was that with the CDs compared to the streaming, when streaming, there is a distinct presence of the center image that I can hear in the middle of the room. But when some sounds on streaming, when listening to this album, I could tell that there are slight gaps between the center image and the left and the right channel. They're very small, but you can hear the reverb decay, or the decay of the sound move across the space in the room, but there would be a little hole and then it would pick up over here. So didn't notice that quite so much in the beginning with streaming, as it's really nice to still be able to discern or to notice the size of the room with the soundstage, but that CD really brought it to light as far as the continuity of the soundstage. And one other point that I noticed right off when listening to this song was how much more vibrant some of the sounds are. Similar to songs having more meat or punch to them, some things are just more vibrant, more clear. So there are some birds in this song that you can hear clacking or chirping, whatever kinds of noises that they're making, but they're definitely more distinct and much more vibrant. So just wanted to point that out as well. So moving on to the next song that I listened to on this album, maybe my second favorite, but the song Moldy Vinyl. It's a very interesting tune. It starts off with, you can definitely hear a needle on a record making some scratchy sounds, and then a few moments later, a little bit later into the song, you start hearing some percussion noises that are tapping on the left and right of the wall. But this song does a great job of really testing the expanse or the breadth of your soundstage. And again, this song reiterated just the continuity of the soundstage, because when those percussion sounds were tapping along the walls, you could clearly hear the decay from those sounds, decay or cascade all throughout the room, and it was really quite noticeable. Very nice. And that, to be honest with you, it kind of made the soundstage seem like it was even a little bit bigger, which was really kind of cool. So just another added benefit of the CDs over the streaming. And one more point on this song that was really noticeable, that stood out, that was different between CD and streaming. At about 2 minutes and 50 seconds, there's this little sound that's very similar to when you hear a needle jump across a record, and it's that kind of a scratchy sort of sound. Yossi does this little thing where it sounds like he's taking that scratchy sound and kind of stretching it out and changing it a little bit. But that sound definitely had some punch to it. I could actually feel that a little bit. It seemed like because that sound had some presence to it that it didn't when listening to it in streaming. Okay, so moving on to the next song number 7, Mine. Not really sure why it's called Mine, because it sounds like it's in a big city downtown construction zone. All kinds of construction type sounds going on, but the main thing I want to point out with this song is that with as many different things happening in space in this song, one thing I noticed with the CD that I didn't quite get as well with the streaming is the level of clarity that the CD is bringing to the table, and consequently the imaging and the separation of instruments to be able to get the distinction in all of those various sounds that are taking place in this song was really, really enjoyable. So again, the clarity really increased with the CD. And one last song to talk about just briefly for now is the song Fluid. This is a really neat song. It has some water dripping at the beginning of the song, and then some percussion comes in, and there's lots of reverb in with this percussion sound, and some with the water dripping. So with this song in particular, it does paint a very nice audible picture, so to speak, with all of that reverb decay, how big the soundstage can be in your system, or at least what I heard in my system. And consequently, with that decay, it did allow me to hear just the continuity of that soundstage throughout the room. There weren't any holes in the soundstage like with the streaming. Well, that's basically it for today. Just had such a unique experience with the CXC transport, running that through the CXN 100 streamer, just noticing again the differences that the CDs bring to the table compared to streaming, which in my experience CDs exceeded the streamer, and the clarity, the tonal clarity, the presence, the separation of instruments, imaging, and as I talked about a pretty good bit, is just the continuity in that soundstage. There weren't any holes in the soundstage, so it really opened up the space in the room a bit more, just being able to hear more precise everything that was there. So increased volume, which was kind of neat, but there was definitely increased benefits, I think, all around with the CDs compared to the streamer. So if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the content, hope you wouldn't mind liking the video and subscribing to the channel, as that will certainly help the channel grow. Thank you again so much for tuning in, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.